On a quiet Sunday afternoon, with most stores closed and people leaving church, I was dispatched to a mobile home park in District 1 for a trespassing call. Typically when we get calls like this, it's just a family dispute or a friend who's overstayed their welcome, but this call felt different from the start. I arrived, and I made contact with the caller, who was visibly shaken. He explained that he and his son were on the side yard barbecuing when they saw a middle-aged woman walk onto their porch. Now, she didn't knock or call out. She simply opened the door and went inside. Panic-stricken, they rushed in after her, and they found her standing near the table. Her head was down, and her hands were shaking in an erratic manner. Her mumbling was described as incoherent, a low, rhythmic chant. When they demanded she leave, she didn't respond, continuing her unsettling mutterings, as if they weren't even there. I stepped into the home. My heart was pounding. The air was thick with tension as I quickly scanned the room. The woman was nowhere to be found. I checked every corner, every shadowy space, but she had vanished. The back door was slightly open, swaying in the breeze. It seemed she had slipped away just before I arrived. The homeowner insisted he didn't want to press charges, but something about the situation felt off. I called for a second unit to help search the area. The woman was clearly in crisis, or worse. As I drove down Clocky Road just south of the community, I spotted her. She was standing just off the roadway and moving erratically. She was wearing sweatpants with a tank top, barefoot and drenched in sweat. She pointed aggressively at the ground, shouting words I couldn't make out. I notified my partner, and we approached her cautiously. As I neared, her voice shifted in tone, as if it were a different person speaking through her. She stood frozen, her eyes wide and unblinking. But every time we moved, she would look away and shake her head violently, like a wild, cornered animal. "Ma'am, we're here to help you," I said, trying to sound calm. But as I reached out to grab her arms, she swung them wildly, her movements frantic and unpredictable. Just before I could secure her, she dropped to the ground, crawling and spitting, a feral look in her eyes. With no other option, we had to restrain her to keep her safe until medics arrived. In the chaos, our eyes locked. Her gaze was piercing, dark and sinister. Yet I felt an overwhelming sense of helplessness and despair radiating from her. My partner tried to soothe her, but she snarled, baring her teeth like a cornered beast. I began reciting the Lord's Prayer in my mind, seeking solace in its words. Each time I formed a sentence, her eyes darted to me, thrashing, as if she could sense my thoughts. As the sirens grew louder, she suddenly stopped, collapsing onto the ground, panting and exhausted. Medics arrived moments later, their presence a welcome relief. They assessed her vital signs, which were abnormal. She would need further evaluation, they confirmed, as they prepared to transport her. As I left the scene, I glanced back at her. For a fleeting moment, a flicker of recognition crossed her face, mingled with fear and anguish. I reassured her that she would get the help she needed, but as I turned away, I couldn't shake the feeling that something dark lingered in the air. That day, I learned that darkness often lurks within, waiting for the right moment to emerge. That woman's distress was a haunting reminder that bad spirits can take root in the troubled minds of the vulnerable. As I drove away, I clung to my faith, understanding that it's our shield against such darkness. We must remain vigilant, for even in the most ordinary places, the battle between light and darkness rages on, and our faith can be the greatest weapon against the shadows.